Okay. Okay.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another
Okay,
day,
there we go.
another donkey,
Look at
another moment,
hallelujah.
another mule. It's time to talk mules and donkeys for the next 60 minutes. My name's Dave, the Mule Guy. This is Steve, the Mule Man, and man, it's a fun week, Steve. Y'all just got done with something pretty incredible, and we talk. So for folks who don't know, like, we talk for about 5-10 minutes before the program goes live. We do our sound check. We just make sure the cameras are working. Today I was having some internet problems, so I had to restart right before we went live. But I didn't ask how the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival was, because I wanted to hear it at the exact same time as everybody else. So October 1st, 2024, just got done with the American Mule and Bluegrass Festival. How was it?
Well, I can be honest with you, it was tough. We had all that weather that we had. We were under roof, but still, there was roads broke down, water over top of water. Now, this is pretty sad for me. My whole hometown of Irwin, Tennessee, was wiped off the face of the earth. Wiped off. That actually showed them standing on top of the hospital and helicopters come and get them from the hospital. You
I
know,
can't believe that. That's
it,
great. That is so sad.
yeah, it is. I had the others send me pictures and said this right here was my house, and all you seen was running water and cars going by in the floating in the water and buildings going by. It was just horrible. But yeah, it was a great show. NASMA was there, North American Mule Association was there, and they were doing their show. They were really low too. They didn't have many people watching. Um, but the people that I did have, it was fun because I met Bill Rose. I hadn't seen him in well over 10 years, and that was an equine affair, and we probably both don't remember each other anyway. And then Rory too. Hey, we had a good time meeting those two rascals, and well, we talked about mules, of course, and I worked with a mule. This mule was pushing around this guy, and he was brand new to the mules, and of course he had a nylon halter and a great big bull snap, they call them, plumb worthless, and so we pretty much got that all squared away where that mule was responding. I put my saddles, trees on him and stuff and show people how it fit. We also had a yearling there that we raffled off, and went to another one of my clients in Ohio, David Goodbar. David's quite the character, good mule trainer and this sort of thing. Hadn't I see him about once a year at Shelbyville. That's about it. Um, I've seen several other people too right now. I can't think of their names, but maybe they'll chime in and say hi just to do the reminders. But anyway, it was if the weather was absolutely horrible. People couldn't hardly get around, and it was kind of tough too because you hate to see something like this happen when Marty Ray that put on a show, he put his heart and soul in this thing for a whole year of advertising and talking to people. He did have almost 900 kids go through his program. Okay. And Marty Ray wrote a book. It's pretty interesting. I haven't seen it yet, but he's been telling me about it. And he's getting some artwork done. But the schools there actually bus these kids into the mule days, and then they get escorted. They get to see Dutch oven cooking. They get to actually pet a mule. They get to see a lot of things going on what they normally these school kids wouldn't be able to do. But they actually took them out of school. You get that? Now that's the South for you. Took them out of school and put them in buses. Took them in and brought them down there to mule days. But right now I'm in Branson, Missouri, and it's horrible here. It's 74 degrees and sunshine.
He's just showing off right now, y'all. He's just showing off. Leave him to him.
Hey, I see you got your hat on there.
Love thy mule, Steve. So Steve goes, usually I spike my hair up. I figured about 15, 20 years ago, I was like, all right, this is how I'm going to wear my hair. And that's the spike look. But I knew I had this at my parents' house. I knew I was going to be loving thy mule today. So I didn't fix my hair so we could have the Love Thy Mule. Thank you so much to one of our clients who sent that in. That's very, very cool. I love it. And Steve, first question of the day today comes from Dave Shrine out of Gilbert, where it's about 102 degrees and sunny. And he wants to know, what has been your favorite part about training mules all these years? That's a great question, Dave. Steve, what would you say to Dave? What's been your favorite part about training mules all these years? I'm really curious.
Yeah, well, my favorite part is to see the end result. And what I mean by that is, Dave, you wouldn't believe how many people have brought me mules and said that they'd had them to a trainer, and the trainer couldn't do anything with them. One of my favorite stories is I was up in Bishop, and Bishop, California, the World Championships, Mule Days there. It's every Memorial Day weekend, and in May. And so, wow, they come to me and said, "Hey, Steve, we got this mule, and other trainers said it's not trainable, and there's nothing but a problem, and forget it." And I said, "Really?" Well, so I went over and I worked with the mule a little bit, put the come along hitch on. Everything gets a come along hitch, y'all, because that's the way you communicate to these mules, is a come along. So I work around this mule and do different things with it. I thought to myself, man, this is an awful nice mule. And it happened to be that the people were in Arizona, and he was going to have some trainer in California train on this mule. Anyway, long story short, um, I'd had that mule probably about 5 days, and this mule was just melting in my hands. One of the nicer mules that I had trained on that year, and I put him in the wagon and drove him. I put a saddle on him and rode him, all in about 5 days. It's just that kind of a special mule. So I called him up and I says, "Hey, I want to give you an update on your mules," because that's what I would do, is call people and update them, tell them this is where I am, this is where I am, and people would be happy with that because they got an update. So I told him, I said, "Well, your mule's doing really good." I said, "I've been doing groundwork and picking up all of his feet." He says, "You've been doing, wow, you pick up his feet already?" I said, yeah, it's doing just fine. And I said, "I've also put a pack outfit on him and did some packing on him." He says, "Wait a minute, you've only had this mule for 5 days and you already got a pack outfit on him?" I said, "Yep, I got a pack outfit on him." And I said, I took a couple pictures. Now you can see that. And I said, "I'll tell you what else I did. I put him in the wagon and I drove him in the wagon." He said, "Wait a minute, you also driving my mule in a wagon?" I said, "Yeah, next to my big mule Tom on my breaking wagon." I said, "But you got an awful nice mule here." He says, "Wow, I got to come over and see this mule and see how well you're doing." I said, "Well, you're welcome. Come on." I said, "By the way, I also rode your mule." And this guy was completely silent. You could just hear a pin drop in the background, Dave. And he come over and he couldn't believe it. He says, "I had 2 or 3 trainers there at Bishop, especially this one lady trainer, and said, this mule, you don't want to waste your time with him." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, partner, what they said to you, but the end result is, Dave, is this: I love seeing these mules when they come to me, nobody's touched them. And I love seeing these mules and somebody else has tried to, quote, try to do something with them and couldn't do it." So, oh well, now like I tell everybody, do it yourself. I got so many clients that came to me, Dave, this past weekend, I couldn't say so many because I really didn't have that many, but everybody that I talked to said they were happy and that they were training. Did I send you that one picture of the mules of looking at that old big old tortoise in Florida?
I don't think I got that one.
Huh.
Wait,
I'll see if I can find out.
let me check one more time real quick.
Anyway, she drove up from Florida. Dave, I had people come in from Michigan. I seen James Kimber there, and his lovely wife. I don't know him. No, I just kidding. But great people, good Christian people, awesome, pretty awesome. Um, anyway, I seen James Kimber and his wife, and I'll think about other names as we come along. But they were always saying the same thing. Man, we're using your technique, Steve, and it worked. And that's my favorite thing is I'm gonna use this word. It works. You know.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking here and I don't see a message, but if you send it to, if you want to text it to me, I can put it up on this week or we can do it in a future week. But that's real cool. I appreciate you taking the time to answer that. Every now and again, I got my own question. Let's get to the people. Ashley watching from Minneapolis, 65 degrees. Dave O'Brien, East Texas, 89 and nice. Glad that hurricane stayed east of y'all last weekend. Ashley says,
Yep.
sorry that your hometown is gone. Absolutely. That's just tragic. And I hate hearing that. Paulie, Barnesville, Minnesota, 64 and beautiful. This is my favorite time of year. I get to sit in my Steve Edwards saddle tomorrow. Look at that. A
All
reason to
right.
live right there. How about it? Marcia is watching. It's raining in Virginia. I'm glad you made it out okay. Check for you all. Check for you all every day. What a shame happened to those beautiful states. Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't remember when it was. End of the 2000s, beginning of 2010. In the Midwest, there were those terrible tornadoes that were just ripped up everything. Well, my family, I cannot remember who it is. One of our viewers has a place there on Kentucky Lake. Well, my family has a place in Kentucky Lake, and my whole youth was spent going to Kentucky Lake, spending time at the cabin, playing in these massive trees that were just, I mean, just huge. I don't know how many decades, centuries they had been there. And then that
Mm.
tornado comes in, ripped the whole thing up, and left
Wow.
about half of the cabin and cleared out all of the trees. Now, of course, we got a better view of the lake right now, but all those trees that so many of us when we were kids played in, they were just gone, and it completely changed the entire thing. But you know what? God continues to renew and restore, and we'll just trust that even more beauty will come out of it. Let's
Yep.
see here. Joe is watching from Bell Falls, Texas. Hannah's watching from, I almost called her Hannelin. Hannah is watching from Dunedin, Florida, 90 degrees. God bless America and all those in the path of Helen. Prayers and amen. That's right. Rory says it was so much fun. Enjoyed meeting my idol. Look at that, Steve. How about that? Rory, you got to stop it, man. His hats only go so big. Karen is watching from Australia, southeast Queensland. It's 8 a.m. Wednesday. Overcast currently, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you for making that translation there for those of us over here in the Americas. I appreciate that. I know we're different than the rest of the world, and you are so thoughtful, Karen. Our two Molly mules, are now 10 months old. We used the come along rope on them recently, and they led brilliantly. This is a credit to your come along rope and the foundation David Scholl creates with the amazing foals he breeds from Moses the Mule Maker. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and answer questions each week so those of us new to mulemanship can be educated and improve. Oh my gosh. Rory, enjoyed
Yeah.
meeting my idol. Karen, thank you for your mulemanship. Folks, we're gonna have to go shopping here. No, that's real sweet, Karen. Thank you so much for sharing that. Isn't that nice, Steve?
Yeah. That is. You know what I think we ought to do, Dave? In about 2 more years, that mule needs to be rode. And I think what we need to do is you and I need to go over there, and you need to be riding that mule for them to demonstrate how easy it is to train a Moses baby.
That's right. Even I'll go international. How about that? That'd be great. Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen. Leslie is watching from Decatur, Illinois. Weather sunny and 78. Herschel is watching from Williamsburg, Missouri, 75 and sunshine. Lori from Michigan, 56 and sunny. Was raining about an hour ago. Merlin from northwest Minnesota, clear and 68 degrees. Judy is watching from Gazelle, California, 75 and sunny. Rory says, question. I need to start one of my riding mules on packing. Now I don't hear a question in there, but I'm guessing he's saying, Steve, what do I need to do to start this?
Well, it says, Rory, it's just like anything else, y'all. Come along hitch, come along hitch, come along hitch. Put that come along rope on there, and put your pack saddle up. Then put your bags or your boxes. Now, also you got to remember that if you got things a little bit rattly in this sort of thing when you're doing it, sometimes those boxes can be a little bit rattly and make some noises. Sometimes the bag's kind of unique. You got to remember every day is a different day to a mule. So I would say to you, Rory, just put that come along hitch on there. Don't bother tying them, and start introducing the new things to it. And hey, send us some pictures. Let us know how you're doing.
Very good. Thanks, Rory. If you got a more specific question as we go along, be sure and let me know. Gail is watching from Tabor City, and this came in as a YouTube comment. Watching late on Friday, windy, 83 degrees. Question for a future show. My mare passed away. I'm considering buying a mule for my next trail partner. Is there any difference in disposition of a Molly and a John mule? What is your thoughts on gaited mules? Thank you. I really enjoy your show and learn so much from your videos. Gail. Steve, what would you say to Gail? She's looking to find that trail partner after her mare passed away.
Well, hey, Gail, I'm sure sorry to hear that your mare passed away. They become like family, don't they? Dogs and horses and even kids can become like family. No, hey, so here's the deal. Um, there's not an ounce worth of difference from a John mule and a Molly mule. Molly mules don't seem seasoned like horses do. When you're going to buy a mule, you're going to buy a donkey. You're going to buy disposition above all else. Okay. Now I have seen some plumb silly mare mules that have seasoned, and all they're doing is looking for love in all the wrong places, so to speak. And it can be a handful, but just be looking for disposition. At the same time, John mules are very, very playful in a lot of ways. They love to roust around a little bit and bite and buck and jump around with other mules. They're more playful. Even though y'all know I don't like to have a bunch of animals in together. It's not a good thing. Best way I know to get hurt. Anyway, so I'd just be looking for disposition. Don't think about color, disposition, and then conformation. Conformation wise, they're going to have, go look at their top line. And what we're breeding right now, we're breeding a lot of quarter type horses. So we ended up with a higher hump in the rump. So we end up with a downhill hip. But other than that, I'd just say just find whatever you like and go from there. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to spend about $10,000 on an average to buy a good solid mule. And when I say $10,000, of course, that scares people. But let me ask you something. Would you work for 1 year for $10,000 and add on to that feeding the animal the whole time, and add on to that probably even buying the animal, add on to that all your vet work and shoeing and things like this, and you're going to sell it for a mere $10,000? Now I can tell you, I used to sell them 25 years ago for $3,500 when you could buy a $500 mule, and people would say, well, why? And I would say to them, well, for one thing, would you work for a year and train on one? Because that's about what it takes, about 12 months to put on a foundation. But anyway, give that a try. Take your time. If you want me to look at any mules, you want to send me a picture or a short video and be short with it, I'll be happy to take a look. As a lot of people know out there, I've helped a lot of people not make some serious mistakes. So give it a try.
Steve, next question comes in from Sandry. This was a comment on Facebook. Says, I'm new to donkeys. There's a donkey nearby that I've been visiting. He has always approached the gate and welcomed pets. He has playfully nipped at my toes. He often sticks his face out of the gate too. But the last time I visited, I noticed that he was walking and acting different than usual. He walked away multiple times. It seemed to me like he wanted attention or to play. He was shaking his head side to side and scratching his hooves under the ground underneath the fence. I don't want to disrespect any of his boundaries or annoy him. His behavior was almost dog like, if that makes sense. Is this normal? What does it mean? Should I leave him alone?
Well, if you mean scratching, was he pawing at the gate? Sounds like that's probably what he was doing, was pawing at the
He
gate.
was,
And you were
yeah, he
calling.
was pawing. She had this
Yeah,
picture. It wasn't a great picture, so I didn't show it, but he was pawing at the concrete, the cement where the post was
yeah.
embed.
Well, I'm sure he just would like to. He was saying to you, "Hey, I want to spend some time with you." But then when he walked away, he was saying, "Okay, I expect you to be my herd. Follow me." And that was kind of what he was doing. You're very wise by petting and scratching on him on the outside, nipping at your toes. Is not a good thing. You got to remember, they bite and they kick. All of them do, and they all buck, and they will bite uh, to get you to be the herd, their herd. And in other words, I'm telling you, this is what I want you to do. If you don't do it, I'm gonna bite you. There's nothing ever playful about a biting animal. So when that happens, if it was me, I'd be kicking his nose, and that's not going to do him any harm. It's not going to make him upset at you, but it's going to darn sure tell him that you are making me uncomfortable, and I'm going to make you uncomfortable. It would be no more than a herd mare would do. A herd mare will spin and kick one and bite them and this sort of thing. It's not unusual for a herd leader to do that sort of thing. So I would say to you, pet and scratch on them, get a chance with the owner and put the come along hitch on him and walk him around and spend some time with him, get to know him.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the question there. Let's see. David Scholl. Here we go. International again. Dave and Di. We started breeding mares for future mules yesterday. He's on it. He's on it.
Yeah.
Cowboy Ken. Hello, guys. Clear and 65 degrees in Connecticut. Karen says you are welcome to come over to the land down under. I look forward to your visit. Let's get international. Ashley says a new name for you, the Cleanup Mule Trainer. Cleanup Mule Trainer.
There we
This
are.
gal's got jokes.
She's got it, boy. Good for her. I'm
Let's
cleaning up
see.
people's messes all the time, it
There
seems
you
like,
go. Sherman Johnson, Norman, Oklahoma, 80 degrees. I'm sitting in the tree stand bow hunting white-tailed deer. It's Oklahoma opening day of deer set. Man, Sherman is committed to this show here. He is
Yeah.
hunting and he is catching a wind of 60 minutes mule and donkey talk. Look at that. That's awesome. Well, looks like we caught you, Sherman. Let's see here. Janet is watching from Kingman, Arizona, 104 and always sunny. Steve, I wanted to ask a little bit more about did you have, with all the weather and stuff like that, did you have much of a time to interact with other people's mules? I think you shared a little bit on the front, but is there any particular story or is there any particular mule that you might want to share a little bit more about?
No, I had the one mule that was a friend of the guy who makes my saddles, and I helped him with his mule. And the mule was a normal thing, you all. Wrong tools, people worried that they're going to make a mistake, and this sort of thing. Another one was a young lady who had a mule that she had saved from the hamburger stand, so to speak. So they'd taken and saved the mule from going to Mexico, and it pretty nice kind of a mule. And I spent a little time with it, and there again put trees on it, showed people how I fit. There was 3 mules there. There was that come in different times. One was the yearly mule that they were auctioning off. Um, Other ones were, the one friend and them, but that was pretty much it. The mule show itself was running about the same time as my program was, and they had just very, very small participation. Matter of fact, most of the people that were watching the mule show, and this was a national points show, so they were trying to get points for their mules and donkeys. Uh, they had less than 25 uh, spectators watching the mule show, and I know usually there's probably 250, 300 people watching on a minimum. So I actually didn't get a chance to work with other animals. I was, of course, like I'm always looking to see what I can do to help somebody. And I've seen a few different people doing things, and I didn't say nothing to them. I wished I would have in some ways, but if unless somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, Steve, could you help me?" I'm going to stay out of their business. I've learned in the past that if somebody wants help, they're going to have to they'll give me a contact. Yes, sir.
Awesome. Very good. Okay, Janet is watching from Kingman, Arizona, 104 degrees, always sunny. David Pingelli just got home from Chicago, just in time to catch your show. Thank you for planning your flights around our show. That really is sweet of you, Mr. Pingelli. Nice day here in Manchester, Georgia. Safe travels to you. And you know what? We're 27 minutes in here, and I just realized I never welcomed people. I never told people the rules. I never let folks know, hey, this is how things work. So let me do that real quick. Folks, my name's Dave. This is Steve Edwards. Every week we get together to talk about mules and donkeys for 60 minutes, and we are so glad that you're here. Really, there's only 3 things that you need to know. The first thing, folks have been doing it already. It's share your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like in your neck of the woods. Why? Because we believe that people matter. We believe that saying hello and saying howdy should not be things that disappear just because we are on the internet here. We believe that you matter, and we want to say howdy to you. And so, your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather is like. The second thing we ask is that you take a moment to ask any and every mule or donkey question that you got. And you can do that right now. There isn't a question that's really off limits. There's not a question that we've answered too many times. There's not a question that we're afraid of. There's not a question that is dumb or stupid. We really do want to make sure that you get the answers that you're looking for. So when you get out there, you enjoy what it is to work and train and ride and pack and drive and lead all these other things with the mule or donkey. So any and every mule or donkey question that you got, you can put it in the comment section. And now's a really good time to do that. Third thing that we ask, and this one's an important one, is to share the broadcast, share this link with friends and family or anyone that you think would be interested in a program all about mules or donkeys. That's how many of you have found us, and that's how we believe we'll be able to make a bigger difference and continue to help other folks. So those are the rules. Name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like, ask any and every mule or donkey question that you got, and then share the broadcast with friends or family. Steve, the next question, this one comes from me as well. The next question has to do with food. Of course, we're getting into the fall type area, and I am just curious, what is it that we should be considering as far as our feed goes now that things are starting to get cooler, now that maybe we're not riding as often, now that we might not be taking them out as often, there might not be as much work, and it starts to get colder? Is there anything that I need to be concerned with as far as my nutrition and feed program goes?
Yep, sure is. And by the way, Dave, everybody keeps saying to me, I had several people there. It was they were hoping you'd be there. They said, "Where did you find that young guy? He's a pretty nice guy. He's got a lot of information." And I said, "Well, he actually started out with making me a video of lightning and this sort of thing on one of my videos, and then we've been going ever since." So they're always saying, "Wow, he's really got good questions and handles things really good." So congratulations, Dave.
That's
Good
sweet.
for you.
That's sweet.
Now,
Thank
now,
you.
and so I offered to give him your autograph, but you weren't there. I said it wouldn't do you much good. But anyway, I no he everybody's always commenting about you, Dave. So I'll just make your hat not fit too. There you go. You did good. So Mister the Mule Guy, we've dubbed him now the Mule Guy. Okay, so preparation. This is what we got to do. Okay, folks. Uh, when it comes down to feeding program, you are going to be feeding roughage. So your hays and this sort of thing, and that's how they stay warm, is eating roughage. So if you got a real cold night coming up, and you know it's going to be cold, give them a little extra, okay, to get through the night. It's nice to um, have a place where they can kind of stand in the sun and kind of warm up. I can tell you that even up in, like, say, Montana, I've been up there hunting at 20 degrees below zero. I mean, cold, miserable rascal, and not a blanket on one animal. People ask me about blanketing all the time. I rarely blanketed my animals. I did blanket them when I would put them in a trailer because of the cold breezes. I guess it made me feel good more than anything else. But I can tell you that I would have a pretty nice little barn or several trees around that they could stand under. They would rather stand out in the open, okay, and feel the sun and this sort of thing, and stand out in the open even when it was snowing, and they'd get an inch of snow across the top of them. Pretty incredible. So I would say to you, make sure their corrals are clean. Keep up after it and clean them across, because I know none of you are turning them out in pasture, right? Yeah, right. Okay. Uh, if I was going to turn one out in pasture at all, it would be during the winter time. Yep, you heard me say it, but it would be on my terms, in that they would go out for 2 or 3 hours, and then they would come back in, and I would put them away. Unless, of course, you got a lot of snow and stuff. Then, of course, they get exercise by pawing the snow out of the way to get to the feed. So there's a rarity that you're going to hear me say it wouldn't be a bad idea to put them on pasture, simply because it would kind of give them exercises. But going back, the other thing is on the hooves. Make sure you keep up with doing their feet every 6 to 8 weeks, especially you donkey people. You want to make sure the hooves are trimmed very, very short. That way that they don't get a bunch of snow packed up underneath and they're walking on softballs, which they could end up doing. So I'd be very careful about that, and make sure you get, um, make sure they got plenty of roughage and keep them trimmed short.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see here. Jane is watching from Florida. It's hot, 80s today. Storm cleanup got hit pretty good. I'm glad you're safe, Jane, and I hope cleanup goes well for you. I feed Bermuda grass and told I can supplement in off feeding times with wheat or barley straw. I don't have barley, but gut wheat straw from Tractor Store for $25. Is this okay?
Here's the thing with when it comes down to them having something to do. Here in Arizona, we take a Palo Verde limb, and it's about an inch around and probably about 4 foot long, and we throw it in the corral and we let them munch on it. That'll take them about 7 to 9 days to munch that thing down. About 3 foot long and about an inch around. So in other words, they have something to do. They can chew on, because it makes their mouth feel good. Remember, their teeth erupt, so they're always constantly growing. All right, and as they get older, your mules and donkeys go from a short little stubby mouth like this, and they grow out and start getting what's called long in the tooth, kind of like old Bill Rose. He's long in the tooth, isn't he? Anyway, so I would say to you that you can give them something like that, would be fine. There's nothing wrong with barley straw. There again, just to kind of give them something to do. The downside about wintertime, um, it can be kind of boring. But also your feed, if you're not careful, if you're feeding a lot of hay, your feed can get on the ground. But it would just give them something to do. The main thing is they got roughage to help them keep warm.
This one comes from Honor. Can you put someone who is 4 foot 11 inches and weighs 90 to 110 on a mule that is 12-1 hands, or will it be too off balanced?
No, it's like putting a 300-pound guy on a 16-hand mule. It's not a matter of size, you all. It's and yes, it's going to be kind of. It may look a little bit off in proportion wise, the little bitty donkey compared to the bigger person, but I wouldn't worry about it. What I would do is I would start exercising my donkey. I would start uh, getting him prepared for you riding him quite a bit, um, and go from there. Go ahead, ride and enjoy. The main thing is you want to make sure keep that scapula back, keep the saddle back. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to over the years, but especially this weekend, that people are thinking that, well, they can just ride around in the barnyard with no breeching. No, don't do that, because in a matter of split minutes, split seconds, that saddle is going to go forward. Okay, I got one of my clients right now. I feel really bad for him. He's got a young mule that he's raised. My saddle's the only saddle that's been on him, but at the same time, the mule is starting to trip. They've had to vet out, and they've done different things to try to figure out what's going on with the leg and can't figure it out. And so I didn't know much about the history of the mule. So I said, well, has somebody had a saddle on it without a breeching, or maybe a horse saddle? He says, your saddle is the only one that's been on this mule. And I said, you had a breeching on him, right? And he said, well, no, not really. I said, look, that fiber just above that scapula can get cracked pretty easy, real easy, and so you need to consider that, all of you. My very good friend Dale in Arlington, Texas, he had a mule, and it had a little cauliflower place on it that this veterinarian. You remember that story, Dave? The veterinarian found it on the scapula and said, "Right there's the problem."
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we got a letter from that guy, didn't we? We've got that online. Did I tell you the sad story about that guy? He died in a helicopter crash.
No, you did not tell me that.
Yeah, yeah. When I was up there with Dale and his wife, and we were fishing up in Canada, my wife and I, and him and his wife, at their cabin up there, and Dale is in Arlington, Texas, and he teaches people how to fly helicopters, and he can fly planes too, but he mainly works with helicopters. And he was training this veterinarian. Told his veterinarian about his problem with the mule wanting to buck and tripping. And so that veterinarian come out, gave some X-rays, said, "Right here's the problem." Just like Steve said, it's got a little cauliflower place. Every time that saddle hits it, it hurts the mule, and he blows up and bucks. Well, that guy was being trained by another helicopter company, and that guy, him and the pilot, the helicopter went bad, and they crashed, and they both died in that thing. And so it's sad, but I guess that's what happened a year ago.
Man, that is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not great at all. Let's see here. Cruising along here. We've got Doggone Adventure watching from Limestone, Tennessee. Good to have you here. Remington is watching from Benson, Arizona, 92
Yeah.
degrees. Robert watching from North Missouri, sunny, 70. Just got my ground foundation, rope halter, and come along hitch kit in the mail today. Very excited to start training with my new mule. Friday, my wife and I took a trip to Oklahoma to purchase our first mule. He's a 3-year-old John Mule, 15.2, maybe 1,200 pounds. We named him Curly McLean from the old 1958 musical Oklahoma. My question for
Ah,
Steve is, how accurate are coffin bone measuring stick predictions? The people I bought Curly from said that he would grow to be 16.1. Steve, what is the coffin bone? And what's he talking about with the measuring stick prediction?
Well, the coffin bone is not actually the measuring device. The coffin bone is a part of the hoof that you don't see. It's actually the skeletal part. And then you go from the hairline on the pastern up to the center of the knee for your measurement. And I would say it's pretty accurate. I've seen it uh, quite often where it did not fail. It worked out pretty good. So that'd be a good accurate measurement. Usually it ends up being like 16.2. Rarely does it be like 16.1 or 14.1. It's usually like 16.2. But anyway, it makes no difference. You're still going to be close, and it also depends on how long his hooves are before you trim them.
Awesome. Okay. Doggone asks, are mules more willing packers than donkeys?
I would say it would go both ways. Donkey's more willing to do anything. Yeah, those little animals, those critters are people are just in love with them. Matter of fact, Marty Ray's wife, she was watching one of her donkeys give birth, and she slipped on the placenta and she broke her leg. Oh man. So she was on a cart all during the show over the weekend. But she says, that's it, Steve. I'm not doing no more mules. I'm in love with donkeys. They're so easy to get along with, so consistent, and they are. They are. For especially for inexperienced people. Um, and they're great trail riding animals. They don't have the hip and the muscle power uh, for the most part. So when you're looking for a riding donkey, just like you'd be looking for a riding mule, always look for a nice round hip, nice and clean and round, not peaked. A lot of them are kind of raftered, peaked. Uh, the other thing that the donkey don't have much of is a gaskin muscle, and that's the muscle below the knee, which is kind of a drive power for the equine. And so um, that would be one of the things that I would say to you. They're wonderful animals, these donkeys, but both can be willing, but both can also get flight because of fright. So you gotta always consider that. Come along hitch, come along hitch, come along hitch. Make sure you got that. Okay.
Steve, next comment comes from Ivy. Says, do you have an opinion about the shoulder relief girths and using them on mules? I'm having good results with them with a slightly down hip and fussy red mare, but I've not tried either on my Molly. And right here is a picture of what she's talking about. So, do you have
Oh,
any ideas here?
I have. That's the first time I've ever seen them. I don't know how that would possibly help with a down hip because the thing about a downhill hip is the hip is higher. So then the saddle wants to go forward. And if you only have a front cinch, you're going to find it's going to bring the saddle forward even more. That's a unique design. I've never seen it. I don't know how it would give shoulder relief, but because there again, folks, especially on mules. I had one guy tell me how he was using a special pad that he had made back up underneath his mule saddle so that it would give a shoulder relief. And I'm thinking, all right, this is not sounding good. You got a mule saddle, but yet you have to put in extra padding in the pad to make it not hit the scapula. Now, I wouldn't call that a mule saddle. Okay. Um, so there it is right there. I don't know. Maybe when they're saying shoulder relief, Dave, I think what they're saying is it doesn't go up underneath the front leg.
Hmm.
Okay,
What she
that's
says
what
here
it is.
is it's designed to move the pressure from the girth back away from the scapula.
Yeah, yeah. You see, yeah, and that's what they're doing. So that's not the scapula down there, y'all. That could be the lower part of the scapula, but it's to take the pressure away from the lower leg. Okay. Now, would I use that on a mule? Maybe, but I'm going to tell you, you you don't depend upon the front cinch of a mule. And also it depends on how the D-ring is placed. Your D-ring can be full rigged, 3/4 rigged, semi, or center fire rigged. Okay. Now, as you can see, she's using a billet, just a strap coming down to attach it into. And you don't want to use a billet. The reason that is, you want to make sure you evenly distribute each one of the uh, uh, cinches so that they're centered. And you can't do that with a billet. Oh, I guess you could if you drilled enough holes and this sort of thing, but it's too narrow of a strip. And I like to have something wide, and I don't like to depend upon leather. Leather, it cracks and breaks all the time. Boom. But I think that's a great idea of the relief. But still, don't depend on a front cinch. I got several of my clients that told me, show me pictures of cinch sores. They said, he's got your saddle. I said, yeah, but you've over tightened my cinch. That's what you've done. You can't blame it on the saddle if it's sore in the animal, because 99% of the time, majority of folks have it incorrect. But thanks for sharing that cinch for us. That's a pretty awesome cinch. But I wouldn't use it on my mules personally.
So, one of the things that really has made a lot of sense to me, just spending time with you, Steve, over the years, is how one thing doesn't make the difference, but how all of the things make a difference together, right? It's
Right.
yeah, you've got the saddle, you've got my saddle, but you're riding without a breeching. Or yeah, you're riding with a breeching, but it's too high, you're not adjusting it, or it's too low, you're not adjusting it for the terrain, and you're using a pulling collar. Or yes, you're riding with my saddle, with my breeching, with my breast collar, but you're only riding with one cinch in the front instead of two cinches. And you can do one thing, but really it only goes so far. Eventually, you've got to put the whole picture together. And what really made a lot of sense, and I don't know when I like put this together, but it may have been when we were in Mesa several years ago. It was like 2020 or 2021, where you were talking about how you want an inch and a half in the front, inch and a half in the back. So you were taking the breast collar and you were saying, okay, here at the front, underneath the neck, you want a half an inch here. And then you were back at the breeching and you said, back here, see my hand, you want an inch and a half back here. And it made sense to me that inch and a half, because this thing, it needs to be able to move, right? You don't want it to be just tightened down all over the place, but you don't want
Right.
it to be able to move more than an inch and a half. So what you were given is you're basically giving yourself like room to flex front and back. I was like, oh, that all
Right.
makes sense to me. How it moves together as one giant unit, almost like some sort of an exoskeleton. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Good point. Very good point. That's right. Exactly. And remember, in that same thought, they'd had one of my saddles there that somebody had
Mm-hmm.
taken and stitched up the back so that the back didn't have the gap in it. And folks, everything I do here is for the mule. And immediately when they said, well, he was having problems and was wearing a hole in the top of his spine, and so I looked at it and said, yeah, it sure is, but I don't know how my saddle done that. Well, then he showed it to me, and it was my saddle that somebody else had. And it happens a lot. They'll put billets on my saddle, or they'll do something to try to make it, quote, fit their way of thinking, and all they're doing is screwing up pretty bad. You know?
Next question. This one, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. If we have, I don't remember what the answer is, but I have reason to believe that my horse is mildly constipated, given that he's pooping less, and when he does, it's hard and a small amount with pellets. I'm wondering, besides sand clear for the next week or so, what do you suggest for a quick solution? I've read that mineral oil is okay. Thoughts? So, Steve, so this is for a horse, but number one, what is a good constipation treatment? And two, would it be the same for donkeys and mules?
Well, good constipation is good poopers. Okay, period. Is salt. You know, you not a block salt that's got, they call a mineral block. You're wasting your money there, but a regular standard block of salt. They have that salt, and the salt helps their intestines and this sort of thing moving. Now, that's one of the reasons I tell you all, folks, watch their poop so you know what's going on. Now, can you use mineral oil? Yes, you can. Okay, you can take and you can even use like vegetable oil on there, give it a little bit of a taste. You can add a little bit of honey with that as well. But if it's hard and not a lot of it, that tells me that there's no salt, not enough salt, and he's not drinking enough water. So that means you probably ought to consider giving electrolytes. But there again, without me seeing the road apples and seeing what color they are, they should be shiny, they should be green, and there should be usually about 2-3 pounds of it at a time. You got to remember, you're feeding almost 10 pounds a session. So you most of the time, his road apples are going to be in 3 to 5 pound segments.
So would you pour mineral oil on the salt block or vegetable oil on the salt block? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no, it wouldn't go on the salt block. It would actually go on the feed itself.
Oh, okay.
uh, that mineral. Now, the other thing you could do would be one of my preferences would be to soak the pellets in a little bit of water to start with, and that'll give them some moisture. Because you see, those road apples, they should be shiny. Okay, they should be a little bit soft as well. Um, and so that's the main thing, and that's what the salt does. The salt helps with the breakdown, and the salt um, uh, helps with the intestines moving and this sort of thing. And there again, he may be dehydrated because that happens a lot. So you may have to give him some electrolytes. Now you can do that by putting in the water, or you can go down, which is my preference, go down and get a paste. It's a paste gun, and you can put it up in the corner of the mouth and give him one shot of that. And it depends on his weight as to how much. But electrolytes are really important, you all. And if you're going out trail riding and stuff, electrolytes needs to be in part of your formula.
Awesome. That's great. Myra is watching. A late hello from very hot California. Jim is watching from Maryland. 57 degrees, rain late, but I am here, and it's good to have you here. I appreciate that, Jim. It's always
Good
good
to
to
be
have you.
heard.
Steve, we got through all of the questions that we had for
Good.
this week. Is there anything else that you'd like to share today, Steve?
No, I just gotta say, thank you for everybody that came and visited with me. I tell you what, Dave, uh, literally the salt of the earth was there this weekend coming to see me. I seen some great families with kids and this sort of thing, and I could see how the families were all really solid together. Not every family's perfect, all right, except for yours, Dave, of course. But they have their problems and this sort of thing, and it's the way life is. But you know what? What they had in common was Jesus. Yes, their focus. They were homeschoolers, a lot of them, and their focus was with the Lord. I had one little guy there that I forget his name right now. I hate that. I'm gonna have to start writing it down. But he was just a lively little rascal. His dad was a great big old man, and mom just as sweet as can be. He had an older brother he was a horse rider, but we didn't let that go against him. But anyway, I latched onto that kid. I got me a new grandchild now, so to speak. You know me, my grandkids are all in Michigan. I mean, in Florida, and if I could have them here, I'd love to. Just like this little guy here, just like your boys. I love spending time with them. But it was great to hear these folks talking about the Lord, part of their family, and of course, I got to do Cowboy Church on Sunday, and we videoed it, and they're going to be sending that to you. Marty Ray's going to get that to you. And they're already starting to plan their 2025 American Mule and Bluegrass Festival. Now, I got to tell you, this was really sized down this time, big time. Okay, before they had some really well-known pickers, bluegrass. And this time here, they had a couple guys and a couple groups that was really great. But this one in particular, I got to send you his songs. Wow, one called America. I mean, the hair stand up on the back of your neck, and you couldn't help but to stand up and shout the whole time. There was nobody sitting down in the seat when this man was singing. And he'd say America, and oh wow, it was incredible. We're living in a unique time, Dave, and this is the time when we, as children of the living God, we need to be praying. We need to be reaching out and to other people and helping them out. But we need to also say, God, we repent, like Daniel did in the 9th chapter. Daniel came and said, I read here there's 70 days, and I realized that we have sinned. He kept saying, not just me, we, the whole nation of us. And so we need to be praying that Daniel prayer saying, we have sinned as a nation, and that we need to repent as a nation. And we realize that not everybody has the same influence of a heavenly Father like you and I have and others have. But this world right now needs one thing only, and that is, come, Lord Jesus, come quickly.
I heard a friend put it this way. He said, if you just look at the Bible, and especially a lot of the Old Testament, the message is repent and obey, or life, or if it's going to go really, really badly for you. But if you repent and obey, it will go good for you. And I just think, man, what's worse than knowing that's the case is not knowing anything at all. Just having a God who is completely removed, is uninterested in his creation, is just up managing the cosmos. But that's not what we read. If we want to know what God's like, we look at Jesus. And what we know about Jesus is that he was intimately involved. He had relationships. He was involved in the intimate parts of the lives of the disciples. He ate. He traveled. He had friendships. He was attentive. He was emotional. We just see that all of the things that we love most about the people who we treasure the most in our lives, the things that we love the most, they're just reflections of a God who is personal and intimately involved and wants to be a part. And he says, look, just repent, obey, and believe. Like that's it. And it will go good for you. And you know what? For me, it's just this deal where it's like, man, I know Jesus, and this is the worst it's ever going to be. We're going to have a renewed heaven and a renewed earth, and it's just going to be dandy here on out. It's tough right now, but it's going to be good from here on out. I think that's a good thing. Just repent and obey, and it will go good for you. Steve, thanks for taking the time while you're on the road.
Yes,
Appreciate it, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. MuleRanch.com. There's all sorts of good stuff. Of course, there's all sorts of free stuff. You got to make sure that you know that free stuff at MuleRanch.com. If y'all need anything, hit us up, send us a message, and we'll get back to you. Otherwise, y'all take care, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
See you later.